Stephen Rogers here on the East Coast of the United States, and welcome to our 20-minute broadcast. Folks, I want to share with you, I'm going to get right to it, by the way, folks. I want to share with you some of the incredible, unbelievable things that are happening across this country, and they're not getting much accurate reporting from the news media. But here's something that I had not planned to talk about tonight because, like I said, we've only got 20 minutes, but I'll try to pack everything in that we said we would talk about. We got this information just a couple of days ago, and I don't think many of you know about this. But do you remember when Seattle was under siege? Do you remember when Black Lives Matter were burning buildings, burning police cars, literally attacked the police station? And I believe at that time they were burning the police station down. Well, here's what was going on without you knowing and without me knowing and without anybody knowing until some organization decided to get information, I believe through the Freedom of Information Act, to find out what was going on with the elected officials in Seattle when all this chaos and carnage, all this burning of buildings and the destruction of city streets was going on. What were they doing when police headquarters in Seattle was actually being attacked and burned? Well, we find out, folks, that Seattle officials, apparently, it's reported, and we've got some of this confirmed, most of it confirmed, Seattle officials were actually talking about transferring the police building that was being burned. All right, the police building, in fact, in some reports, it was actually a police headquarters building. They were looking to transfer it to guess who? To Black Lives Matter. They were going to surrender the police building that was under attack to Black Lives Matter. They had told the police to run. The civilians were left at the mercy of these street thugs. And the last straw would have been to surrender. Just give them the building. They're burning the neighborhoods down. They're destroying businesses. Why don't we be nice? Why don't we invoke the wokeness and weakness of Biden's America and give Black Lives Matter the building? That is what was going on, folks, behind the scenes. And now I'm wondering how much of that was going on around the country. I got to tell you, folks, when I grew up and there was rioting, whether they were white people or black people, doesn't matter what color they were, when you're breaking the law, you're going to pay the price. You're going to be arrested. In this case, these people, whether they're black, white, and whoever came from abroad to instigate these problems, to destroy the democracy that we have, to destroy small businesses, not only in Seattle, but in LA and in New York, and I could name a dozen more cities, and to suggest that we surrender ground to them. I'm talking about literal real estate. Just surrender it to them. To do what? To take another piece of real estate and then another piece of real estate. And before you know it, they take the whole country. That's something that we must keep an eye on as we move forward, because our government of the United States of America is indeed surrendering something every day. Surrendering our Second Amendment rights, surrendering our First Amendment rights. I mean, I could go on and on and on. Well, let's go on to some of tonight's topics. Do you notice a pattern beginning to develop over the past year, at least since Joe Biden was elected to office? The pattern that I see developing is a direct, unprecedented assault on Christians and Jews across this country. In the past 48 hours, many American Jews on their way to Florida. I know a lot from New Jersey go down there. I think they call snowbirds. Anybody from the north who goes south, they're snowbirds. They leave their homes who are left in the snow and the wintry weather, and they go south to the beautiful free state of Florida. I understand as they were traveling down a highway in Florida, they were met with neo-Nazis, punks, thugs, cowards. That's what they are. Neo-Nazis, folks, who were hanging swastikas over highway overpasses, and the things that they were yelling at the Jews, I would dare not even say that on the air. I don't want any kid to hear, especially a Jewish child, to hear some of the language that was used against these Jews. In Florida, folks, in Florida, I mean, I don't know what's going on down there, but there's just too many attacks on Jews in Florida as well as across the country. So what has to happen is, folks, first of all, the question is, well, if they were on the overpass of a highway, why weren't they removed? Well, that's a question I have. Well, the answer was, well, there's First Amendment rights. People have the right to free speech. Well, let's give them that. Let's say they have the right to free speech. As despicable as they are, they have the right to free speech. But when you're on a highway overpass, as far as I know, I've only been a cop for 38 years. What do I know? I know this, folks. When you are on an overpass and you're hanging banners and you're creating some sort of scene, it becomes a public safety hazard, which means you will be told to leave. And if you don't leave, you will be arrested and you will pay the price. In my view, that's what they did. They broke that law. In my view, they were actually inciting hate crimes. But then again, I said I'm a cop, not a lawyer. But at the very least, I go back to the word common sense. My brother officers out there in Florida, they should have been removed at the very least from the highway overpass. But they got away with it. And then they went out into a street and into a neighborhood and did the same thing, marching around with the silly little signs and causing terror, folks, causing terror upon the Jewish community in Florida. And then lo and behold, here in New Jersey, I read a report a couple hours ago where some clown decides, as he's snow plowing some snow in Lakewood, New Jersey, he sees two Hasidic Jews walking down the street, minding their own business, folks. It's on video, minding their own business. And what does this driver do? He decides to plow snow into them and laughing. You could hear him laughing on the video. What is emboldening these sick people to do what they're doing? First of all, I want the Nazis to understand, and people like that driver, whoever he is or she is, understand this. You are not an American patriot. You are not an American patriot. American patriots who love this country love the Constitution. And when you love the Constitution, you have a piece of paper there, a historical document that is protected by all of us who love this country. And that is the document that protects everyone, even you sickies, you Nazis, you communists, even protects you. But it can't and shall not and will not protect you from committing acts of violence against innocent people. So I hope that the Lakewood Police Department in New Jersey track down this sick individual and charge him, whoever he or she is, and charge that person with a hate crime. They need to be charged with a hate crime because they saw these Hasidic Jews walking down the street and targeted them because they were Jewish. Now, I'm a Christian, and I've got to tell you something. I've got a message from my brethren in the church, if you will. They're going after Jews now. And guess what? They're coming after Christians. But Lieutenant, how could you say that? Where's the proof? I can tell you all across the country during the COVID crisis, a number of pastors were locked up. They were handcuffed. They were put in jail. They were set out on bail, but nonetheless, they were arrested and their churches were closed. But what about what we just learned that happened in Michigan to a high school student? Now, like I said, folks, everything I'm telling you, you could go on the internet, go wherever you want to go, you're going to find it. A student in Michigan, a high school student in Michigan, apparently has been disciplined by the school, may have been suspended, I believe, for doing what? For talking about his Christian faith to other students. In violation of what law? Where's freedom of speech there? In violation of what law? Talking about his Christian faith has become a crime in this country. Putting up mangers and menorahs and celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ, celebrating Hanukkah has become a crime in this country. What we've got to do is stop this madness. Folks, I've got to tell you, I'm a faithful man of God. I'm not perfect, believe me. I can tell you that I probably caused the Lord to spin his head 1,000,000 times a day over some of the things that I think about doing with regard to a lot of the issues that we're addressing. But he is a forgiving God. He is a loving God. And I know enough about that Bible and about the God that I serve and the prayers that I and millions of us make that God has blessed this country, and he's going to protect this country. He's going to keep us safe, and he's going to keep us under the shadow of his wings so long as we do what? We stay focused on him and his word. All throughout history, any country that has turned their back on the Almighty did turn his back on them. Any country, you name it, it's happened. And we have been in a quandary here in the United States for many, many decades, where little by little, as we begin to keep our eyes off the Almighty, off of God Almighty, I'm beginning to see a pattern develop there too. That year after year after year, things are getting worse. When you lose the spiritual foundation of a nation, you lose the nation. What is it that Ronald Reagan said? That we are one nation under God, or we will be one nation that God puts under? Something along those lines. So keep that in mind. Christians and Jews are now under attack because of our faiths and belief in God Almighty. But who is behind this? Who is causing this upheaval against Christians and Jews and faithful people in America? I'll tell you who. The Communist Party. This is not a conspiracy theory, folks. It is a fact. Communists first go after faithful, God-loving people. And they know once you take their faith away, once you begin to destroy their belief in God, you're going to destroy their hope. You're going to destroy their energy. Well, hell's going to freeze over before I allow the Communist Party to do it to me, the people I know, and frankly, this country. We are not going to allow that to happen, folks. We are just not going to allow the communists to do what they tried to do in the 50s and 60s, and thank God Almighty, Ronald Reagan destroyed them. We're not going to allow them to do it in our lifetime. We have too much at stake. Our children's lives, their future are at stake. So you think about that one. So as we move forward now to our next topic, and like I say, we capsulate these topics. These are kind of hot topics with quick hits, just to give you up to speed on what's going on. I have another message for Mayor Eric Adams of New York, where police officers are being assaulted, where 2 have been killed, more have been injured, and the beat goes on. To Mayor Eric Adams, stop with the meetings, the commissions. Don't worry about Joe Biden coming and putting his arms around you saying he's sorry, because he's not sorry. And Mayor, you need to stand up like a man. You said you were a cop, right? You said you were a cop, just like me, that you served all these years, toe to toe, shoulder to shoulder, with the brothers and sisters in blue across the city of New York. If that is true, then you know how it is to be a cop out on the streets. Then you know how it is to be a police officer who's trying to do his or her job with the government breathing down your neck, watching every move and waiting to prosecute who? Not the criminal, but the cop on the street. So Mayor Adams, I have a proposal for you. Why don't you end the meetings, end the political posturing? You were a police officer as long as I am. I've seen it all, heard it all, the same song and dance. Every time something happens to police officers, the politicians get up there, pontificate, and then they move on. Well, instead of moving on, be a man. Be courageous. Stand up to the Joe Bidens of the world. Stand up to the Communist Party. Just stand up and be a man. And let them know that as mayor of the most grandest city, perhaps on the earth, that you're not going to turn your city over or your cops over to anarchists and to criminal elements. Because right now at this hour, the cops don't control the streets of New York. You don't control anybody. The criminals do. The bad guys, the anarchists, the arsonists, the murderers, the assaulters, the rapists. Need I go on, Mayor Eric Adams? Stand up like a man. Is that hard to do? Maybe for you it is. For me it isn't. If you can't stand up like a man, we'll find somebody who could. But why don't you think about that? And now we go on to this topic, folks. What about what's going on in Ukraine? This is interesting. You got to hear this. We're doing a lot of research here at Campaign for America with regard to a lot of national and domestic events that are going to affect not only you and I in our lifetime, but the lifetime of our children and maybe their very lives. So here's what's going on. I constantly get this question. How did we get to this point? where we're ready to go to war with Russia. This like happened overnight. Folks, it did happen overnight. And here's what happened. I'll give you a little bit of a timeline. Donald Trump, President of the United States, had established what I call the respect button. I've said this before. Hillary, respect. Obama, respect. Biden, respect. Didn't work. All we got from them is disrespect from people and leaders around the world. Donald Trump comes into office. He throws the respect or the reset button out, and he introduces the respect button, meaning, Vladimir, you're going to respect us. Meaning, President Xi, you're going to respect us. And on and on and on. And they respected us because they knew the Reagan doctrine, and they knew the Trump doctrine was a real doctrine of strength in the military. And we get peace through strength. Get out of line. We're not going to threaten you. We're just going to do what has to be done to get you back in line. So here's what happens. The subject of Ukraine becoming part of NATO disappeared when Donald Trump took office. Kind of disappeared. There was no great push anywhere for Ukraine to become part of NATO. All of a sudden, Joe Biden is the president, and Ukraine now becomes an epicenter of a possible major war. Why? Somebody, Joe, decides to bring up an issue regarding Ukraine, who all of a sudden wants to become part of NATO. When, from what I am told and from the research we made, that Vladimir Putin was told a long time ago, I believe even during the Obama administration, don't worry about it. Ukraine, not going to become part of NATO. We're not interested. Ukraine is a corrupt country, folks. I don't even know why they would want Ukraine to become part of NATO. It disappeared. It disappeared. Obama left it alone. After Obama, whoever ran, I even forget, Bush left it alone. And then you got Donald Trump. He left it alone. It was a dead issue, right? It was a dead issue. Well, until Biden came in. So now it was either the president of Ukraine, or maybe it was Vladimir Putin, or could it have been Joe Biden, who decides, we've got to revisit this Ukraine issue. We've got to really think about getting them involved with NATO and becoming part of NATO. Well, therein lies the root cause of the problem we're facing, Joe Biden. Why on earth would he bring up an issue that he knows is very sensitive to Russia? Now, look at, folks, I've said this all along. That's an internal matter. Let Russia deal with Ukraine. Joe Biden, leave our troops out of it. Leave our sons and daughters out of it. Leave us out of it. So now we've got Joe Biden telling the world the Russians are ready to invade. You got the Ukrainian president saying, nope, Joe, you're overreacting. You're making a big deal out of this. I can sit down with the Russians and we could talk. Think about this. The president of Ukraine is refuting what the president of the United States is saying. Meanwhile, Vladimir's sitting back. Now he's got 150,000 troops or so on the border, medical supplies, food supplies, all kinds of armament, all kinds of subsonic, supersonic, all kinds of weapons. And then he's up the ante because Joe upped the ante. Joe Biden actually told Vladimir Putin that if you launch a cyber attack on the United States, we are going to launch a brutal war against you with regard to the economy, your infrastructure, and on and on and on. So Vladimir Putin decides that, hey, Joe, say what you want to say. We've got the power, we've got the weapons to pretty much take your infrastructure down. And this is going back and forth between these two guys. I got to tell you, folks, when I tweeted this out and I heard this today, Democrats and I believe some Republican congressmen and women went to Ukraine to sit down with the Ukrainian president and to find out what's on his mind, to find out what's going on with the Russians at his border. Now, I don't believe in any of these political trips to any country on my dime, on my taxpayer dollar, is worth anything. There are a bunch of congressional politicians sitting down, taking pictures. Oh, let's an election's coming up. We know it's coming up in 2022. And we're going to go there to show that we're for peace, that we're for world peace, and we're going to help. What did they do? They sit down with the Ukrainian president. He tells them his story. They tell them their story, and they come back and they report to us on how bad things are at the Ukrainian-Russian border. So my question is this. I saw some of these interviews, and some of the congressional representatives, Republican and Democrat, that I saw on these interviews, I don't recall them ever going to our border, to the Mexican border, the Mexican-U.S. border, the border where we should be involved in to protect what? Our national security. We have no national security interest in Ukraine, none at all. Folks, if the French want to go, the British want to go, the Germans want to go, whoever wants to go, you guys go ahead. That's your part of the world. Now, I don't believe that we should ever stand by, of course, and allow any military to go into any country and start to indiscriminately kill civilians. I think at that point in time, perhaps we have to step in. But I don't believe Putin's going to do that. I do not believe that. I believe there may be an invasion. And if there is, it could certainly be nasty. It could be bad. But I also believe that maybe, just maybe, the Ukrainian president and Vladimir Putin may be able to solve this problem without the United States or any other nation interfering. So Joe, what does he do? Well, he comes out and says, I'm not sending ground troops to Ukraine, but we got troops going to Poland. We've got troops going to Eastern Europe. We've got troops going here and going there. Joe, where are all these troops going? I don't know where they're going, folks, but it leads me to this. And we've got one more minute, and then maybe next Monday night we'll talk about this part of the subject. They're leading our military into a situation where they're going to fight a war they can't win. They can't win, folks. They can't win because our U.S. military has become a military of weakness and wokeness. And I'm going to talk about that topic at length next Monday night at 7 p.m. here. So it's a short broadcast. We've designed this way to give you a flavor of some of the things going on around the world. Frankly, when any broadcast is past 20 minutes, I kind of get bored. So I figured, why am I going to bore you? After 20 minutes, I think you heard enough of me. In fact, I've heard enough of me. So anyway, folks, we're going to move on. I ask you if you'd like to have our briefings, PDF files we'll send to you. For those of you who have already ordered them, believe me, we're getting them together. We were overwhelmed, a few hundred requests, and we'll be sending them out soon. PDF files on a lot of the research we've done and bring you up to speed with videos and with written literature. We'll send that to you via PDF files. See that campaign, the number 4America.com under my picture. That's our website. Go to our contact page, and by all means, we'll send it to you. Just put your email and name. No, we don't need your phone numbers. We don't need anything else. Email and name, and we'll get that information out to you shortly. That's it, folks. I'm going to ask you to do me two favors. One, share this video. We're on a whole lot, about a half a dozen social media platforms. We've got up to 8,000 viewers, a few thousand, I think 3 or 4 last week. It's fluctuating up and down. So that means you're getting the word out. Also, folks, pray for our nation. I believe in the power of prayer. I really do. This is a godly country. It's a wonderful country. We are, contrary to what the left and the communists believe, we Americans are a great people. We are an exceptional nation, a nation of loving, kind, good-willed people. And we're not going to let anybody take this country away from we, the people. That's it, folks. 3 minutes over. That's about my average. Forgive me, 20, 23. I think we're in good shape. Thanks so much, folks. God bless you. So go to our website, campaign4America.com. Please share this video across your social media platforms, and we'll start getting this information to all of you who have been emailing us and contacting us within the next week. Thank you all. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.